After the second disaster in 2006, Chernobyl once more became a hot topic for the media and the general public. However, the cover-up by officials was mostly efficient, and apart from a few press articles and the occasional stalker tale, little information about the new anomalous zone seeped into the mainland. Many came to uncover its secrets, but only a handful managed to succeed, and side by side with the legendary stalkers stood one of them, Veniamin Alekseenko, nicknamed Journalist. Hello stalkers, in this video we will retrace the story of Venya, the so-called Journalist. Huge spoilers ahead, and let us begin. Despite his importance, Venya remained a minor character in the game, whom we didn't even get to meet in person. In fact, many players might miss out completely on his storyline, because it is locked behind the deluxe and ultimate editions of the game. Indeed, the Journalist is gradually introduced via his stashes that we are meant to raid, collecting the sweet loot promised by the special editions. Still, Venya's first appearance actually predates the release of the game, since he was the main character of the S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 ARG, the augmented reality game that mostly took place in 2021. Unfortunately, this event is not well known, and most people either glanced over it or forgot it existed. But don't worry, I will recap what happened in a minute. Going even further back, the idea of a journalist investigating the secrets of the zone is a very old concept, dating from the development of S.T.A.L.K.E.R Oblivion Lost, the game that eventually became Shadow of Chernobyl. Back then, there was such a character who was very important to the plot, but he ended up being cut from the story. We can speculate that Venya is like a spiritual successor to the original Journalist, a revival of this old but gold idea. With all of this in mind, it is not surprising that the Journalist is not very well known among the player base, being more of a niche character meant to appeal to the most hardcore fans. So who is this Veniamin Alekseenko guy anyway? When he was studying at the Chernovtsi University, Venya heard a story about a group of students who made a trip into the exclusion zone during the 2000s, most likely around the time of 2006. The 7 tourists had gone to the zone in order to study its soil and nature, but their expedition quickly turned into a tragedy. At first they disappeared, so a missing report was issued and soldiers were sent to search for them. Eventually their empty camp was found in a forest. It looked like the residents had left it in a hurry, abandoning all of their belongings. The next day, 6 of the 7 missing students were found dead deep in the woods. There was no sign of violence on them, and the cause of death could not be clearly established. Moreover, one student had a look of pure horror on his face, and all of them had a strange radioactive slime substance on their bodies. The 7th member of the group, Dmitry Gritsenko, was never found. According to Venya, speculation about what happened ran wild at the university. Yet everything remained just rumors, and the teachers kept quiet about the matter. A single article was published on the topic, though it was printed on a small scale. Overall, officials did their best to bury the case and people slowly forgot about it. Veniamin did not. In 2010, he had finished his studies and was hired as a journalist by an editorial office. A few years passed, during which Venya learned a lot and met with many interesting people. In 2013, he remembered about the missing students and started to dig into the archives for any clues on the matter. A few months later, Venya wrote that he indeed came across some evidence, along with very unusual information related to the exclusion zone. As part of his investigation, the journalist contacted the newly created Scientific Institute for Research in the Chernobyl anomalous area, S.T.A.L.K.E.R for short. He claimed to know about a so-called object and requested help from the institute for further research. Surprisingly, S.T.A.L.K.E.R responded by inviting Venya to make an official trip into the zone, an offer he accepted. Back at the time of the ARG, we didn't know what the object was, only that it was extremely important and that S.T.A.L.K.E.R was looking for it. After the game's release, it became clear that the object was actually an alpha artifact. It appears that Venya wasn't aware of the whole picture, and the Institute's leaders intended to exploit him and his sources for their own benefit, ready to silence him if need be. Thus, Venya was issued an official passport for entry in the zone, and went to visit S.T.A.L.K.E.R during the summer of 2014. The details of what went down during Veniamin's visit at the Institute are unknown, but it seems the man ended up escaping within the zone after faking his own death. Indeed, a corpse wearing an old suit was dumped in a bunker near Yanev. The body had Venya's official permit among its belongings, giving the impression that the journalist really died here and there. Of course, it was not the case. Instead, he became a stalker, exploring the zone in search of more information on the conspiracies he aimed to bring into the light. For many years, Venya kept a low profile, sharpening his skills as a stalker, making connections with various factions, such as S.T.A.L.K.E.R, and slowly collecting more evidence of the wrongdoings of S.T.A.L.K.E.R and their benefactors, the mysterious Regulatory Board. The journalist resurfaced in 2021 during the events of the ARG, shortly before the game takes place. Explaining everything that happened during the ARG in this video is impossible, so I will have to sum things up. Basically, a mysterious stalker named Cypher sent coded messages and other clues to the mainland looking for help in solving a certain puzzle. With the assistance of those who took part in the ARG, Cypher found Venya's supposed dead body in the bunker near Yanev, and his origin story was dug up. As a result, assassins were sent by an unknown employer to silence Cypher, but he was rescued in the nick of time by the Spark group, who's also on a quest to unravel the secrets of the zone. More operations were conducted to undermine the work of the Ward, the armed forces tasked to protect the Institute, and ultimately Veniamin himself came forward and leaked many interesting documents regarding the secret experiments carried out in the zone and the shady activities of S.T.A.L.K.E.R. There is a theory that Cypher was actually the journalist all along, although there is no official confirmation on the matter. Either way, that's how the ARG went, and quickly after started the events of the game. Venya immediately took interest in Skif when he came to the zone, leaving a message in his private box at Zalesia after our hero resolved the case of the Warden sensors stolen by Squint in the Lesser Zone.
Hello, Stalker. I'll keep it brief. I know who you are, and I can guess why you came here. My occupational hazard, always reading the news from the mainland and making acquaintances that might prove useful. Once upon a time, I came to the zone to find the truth too, so I want to help you. I will transfer to you the coordinates for my stashes. There you'll find the things and information I managed to gather over the years. The dead have no use for it, and I've been dead for a while according to my paperwork. I hope we'll meet soon, and as for my stuff, it's nothing compared to all I've received from the zone.
Venya's stashes can be raided in any particular order, but most of them are located near the path that Skif will eventually take when completing the main quest. This section of the video is not meant to be a guide on how to find the stashes, so I will actually present them in a different order, which in my opinion makes a better job at depicting the journalist's journey throughout the zone when reading the stash descriptions. Sidorovich is one suspicious guy, not a big fan of journalists. Didn't want to sell me anything at first, had to run some errands for him to get a sunrise. My belief is that Venya began his adventure in the Cordon, that's why I chose this stash first. Back in 2014, the Cordon was probably still a regular starting point for rookies, because Zalesia had not yet become the popular hub we've seen in 2021. Of course, Sidorovich is always ready to exploit stalkers in need, just like he did with the Marked One during the events of Shadow of Chernobyl. In this game, you could also earn the Tourist Sunrise suit by completing all the secondary jobs given by the chicken-eating trader. Before the zone, I couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. Tried it once at the range just for fun. This weapon makes it almost easy. My fingers start remembering something they were never trained for. It sounds like Venya wasn't really the warrior type, unlike Skif. Now, this is the first of several monolithian weapons stashed by the journalist. Its description hints at the fact that the gun is weirdly easy to use, as if it was imbued with a part of the fanatics' brainwashing. Indeed, it was their programming that made the monolithians such skilled fighters, giving them almost robotic reflexes for better weapon handling and shooting accuracy. You can see that some Noontiders aren't really keen on combat, like Horse, who wouldn't hurt a fly, or Sava, who cannot stand the sight of blood. However, once their brainwashing was rebooted, they became killing machines once again. The zone is no walk in the park, but it seems to me that if you learn to see the good in it, it will change the way it looks at you too. I have no other explanation for how it treated me from the start. What does it see in me, I wonder? Venya was not predisposed to thrive in the zone, but he did anyway. According to Doctor, the zone wished for the demise of its tormentors, which could explain why it helped the journalist in his quest, since he aimed at exposing the secrets of such people. Well, that is if you believe in the power of the zone to influence the lives of the stalkers that live there. The stash contains a monolithian pistol and a suit that was once worn by the bouncers of the 100 Rads bar, another nice callback to Shadow of Chernobyl. The zone teaches me quickly, I'm becoming picky, even when it comes to weapons. Now I won't be carrying a piece if the ammo costs me an arm and a leg. The less my ruck weighs, the faster I can run, the longer I can live. So not only was the zone gentle with Venya, it also taught him about survival. This lesson is something that applies to the player as well. Good guns require expensive maintenance, and an overcumbered stalker makes for an easy victim of the zone. Thankfully, the unique Reman SMG included in the stash is both lightweight and reliable. These trophies bring everyone closer. People cherish them and thank the zone for staying alive after meeting their first owners. However, I didn't get all of this from the monolithians themselves. The first owners of this custom AR-416 are of course the monolithians, back when they were still under the influence of the Wish Granter. Venya mentions not having acquired the guns from them because the monolith had already gone silent when he first came to the zone. How did he find them then? Well, perhaps the next stash can give us an idea about the answer. At last I met the monolithian I heard so many frightening things about, but Strider doesn't like talking about the past. He even gave me his kit. Out of sight, out of mind. After the fall of the monolith, S.T.A.L.K.E.R created Noontide and decided to move on from the past. That's why he didn't mind parting ways with his old armor, the one he had in Call of Prypiat. Further, it is very much possible S.T.A.L.K.E.R gave away more monolithian equipment as well. This would explain how Venya acquired the monolith guns. It is also probable that a lot of former fanatics were killed and had their stashes looted during the years following the Wish Granter's deactivation. Another important detail here is that the treasure is located at the forgotten Clear Sky base, confirming that Venya actually visited the place in his quest for the truth. I still can't get used to death being just another day in the zone, so I can't take this rifle. If I make it out alive, I'll make sure to write about its owner. This man's life is a novel waiting to be published. Man, I wish we could read such a novel right now. Who was this person, I wonder? Clearly a veteran, who embraced one of the philosophies often shared by the toughest of loners. To make it, whatever it takes. Well, journalist, perhaps you are not used to death yet, but that does not mean you cannot bring it. Now I am a murderer, but after what the Brood did to S.T.A.L.K.E.R, I had no other choice. I hate them. S.T.A.L.K.E.R is not one for retaliation, but he would have approved of this kind. I will leave all of S.T.A.L.K.E.'s things here. S.T.A.L.K.E.R was one of S.T.A.L.K.E.R's squad mates in Call of Prypiat, and a member of Noon in Heart of Chernobyl. This means that he survived his encounter with the Brood bandits, despite what the stash description might lead you to believe. The fact that Venya went as far as killing for the first time to defend S.T.A.L.K.E.R goes to show that he had a great relationship with Noontide, which again ties with his stashed monolithian weapons, including this shotgun. This is not surprising considering the journalist's dedication for going all the way in his search for the secrets of the zone. Understanding the story of S.T.A.L.K.E.R and his men would be a crucial step in figuring out the truth. S.T.A.L.K.E.R weapon names are pure poetry, and the deadlier, the more metaphoric. This one, for instance, puts one to sleep rather than kills. An escape from the truth? Isn't this exactly what we're doing? I can confirm that Lullaby is a pretty good gun. We've more or less figured out how the journalist got his hands on monolithian weapons, but I do wonder where he found all of these other unique shooters. He's a very resourceful guy, that's for sure. Oh, by the way, the inscription here says, "Good hunting, S.T.A.L.K.E.R." I led this gear's previous owner right into a spark ambush. Do I feel guilty? No. This was no scientist, but a Mangali from Circa. And he is not the only one. Now I know that. This one confirms what we already suspected. Venya turned against Circa and developed ties with Spark. While clearly established in the ARG, it was nice to have a reminder actually be in the game. We also witness a progression in journalist's character. He was softer at first, unable to properly hold a gun and put off by all the death in the zone. Now he's become a veteran, almost ruthless S.T.A.L.K.E.R. The inscription illustrates this idea. Your loot, my loot. In this case, a special scientific suit from the Institute. Before I met the owner of this revolver, I never believed that Freedom organized mutant safaris for rich foreigners. Where duty works hard, Freedom makes a pretty penny. Do you remember the times when Freedom advocated for leaving the mutants in peace because destroying them could damage the zone's ecosystem? These times are far gone, and the Freedom we once knew is long forgotten. The model competitor, though, is a welcome addition to our arsenal. In the zone, the situation can change within seconds. While I was trying to hide from an IPSF soldier, A chimera attacked him. We beat it together, but the guy's wounds were so bad he was a goner. I remember it like it was yesterday. If you needed any more proof that Venya became a badass, there it is. Killing a chimera is no joke, even in a duo. The spark suit next to the stash is another reminder that the journalist used to roll with them, but I must confess that I am much more interested in the Gabion's special rifle. Now, there is one final stash we'll need to take a look at. But before that, we should listen to the messages left by the journalist for Skif, which will give a bit more insight on what was going on for him during the events of the game.
Hello, Stalker. I'm afraid we can't communicate directly. They're tracing my calls, which means they're watching me again. My investigation has become a real pain in the neck for both my old enemies and former allies. But since I rose from the dead, these trifles seldom bother me. Or you, I hope. Our meeting will have to wait for now. I can only hope my stashes have made your journey a bit easier.
It is pretty clear that Venya's investigation pissed off a lot of powerful people, and that's why they are keeping an eye on him. Who's they? Well, I believe that the sentence "my old enemies and former allies" refers to the Ward and S.T.A.L.K.E.R respectively. Yet, that was not the only ones after him.
The can of worms I opened, Stalker? Now they will never get off my back. Remember when I said I came here for the truth? Scratch that. I was chasing a hot scoop. It is true what they say. Be careful what you wish for. The zone can hear everything. I'm going back to the mainland, hoping to publish everything I've uncovered. It's the only way this information won't become a weapon in the wrong hands. As for you, remember, do not trust anyone, even those who say they are on your side.
Alright, so the journalist decided to get out of the zone and share his secrets with the world. But so far he hasn't told Skif what these secrets are. Don't worry though, we will discover the scoop soon enough. Moreover, we can note the warning about not trusting anyone, foreshadowing the fact that no matter your choices, Skif is being manipulated by his allies, one way or another.
My escape failed. They won't let me out of the zone, and there is no place on Earth where I can be safe anyway. Your story is a perfect example. It disappeared from every archive outside the perimeter. Maybe it's a good thing I'm at the center of all these events. I have another way of communicating with the mainland. If, like me, you're not willing to give up, head over to Prypiat. The door code is 2021. You don't have to knock.
Well, things don't always go as you plan them. It is interesting that Skif's identity was basically erased from any records in the mainland. Of course, the fact that he had no friends and family probably made it easier, but it must still require quite a lot of influence to be able to pull out something like that. I wonder if the same thing happens with every person that disappears in the zone. Moreover, I should mention that sometimes mercenaries will arrive to attack you right after you raid a stash from Venya. This suggests that some of his enemies had hired killers to go after him, explaining why the journalist does not feel safe regardless of where he goes. Anyway, after you pick up the last flash drive, you gain the ability to visit the final stash, located in the famous ghost city. I knew I would end up in Prypiat. What I didn't know was what I would become. One with no trust or faith. But I have no regrets, apart from the fact I now have to admire her beauty through a rifle scope. Come on, journalist, don't be so pessimistic. Skif is coming to finally meet you. Oh. It's done. You finished the job, and I'm grateful for that. I don't think you're ever going to read this, but I'm just writing it to get some closure. Although, we both knew you'd come find me one day. Am I right? I've made my decision. I see no point in staying here. I mean, I did see a point. This whole business was the only point. The only incentive for me to go on. I have to write this down because I'm scared. It's a terrifying thing, facing the end of your life. I always thought I could never muster up the nerve to, pull the trigger. It turns out that Venya could not stand the weight of what he had discovered anymore. He had made too many enemies, who would never stop chasing after him, so he chose the only way to go out on his own terms, a bullet through the skull. The inscription on the wall gives a bit more insight. Spark no longer sparks, the ward is now worthless. Sated bloodsuckers, Benoni for joy. The nickname Benoni was one of the aliases used online by Venya during the ARG. So basically he realized that both the ward and Spark were rotted to the core, and there was nobody he could rely on. In order to put an end to this madness, he decided to satiate the bloodsuckers. That is, to give them what they want by ending his life. Now, one question remains. What kind of secret did the journalist uncover that would generate so much fuss? Let's take a further look at the stash to find out. The bag contains an upgraded Nipro, but the real treasure is found in the box on the balcony. A special Warden exoskeleton, a camouflaged hunter rifle, a unique Margash shotgun, and Veniamin's PDA. The device will contain a different list of messages depending on who the player decided to side with. If Skif is with the Ward, the sender will be Korshunov. If he is with Spark, it will be S.T.A.L.K.E.R. And if he is with neither, the messages will be from S.T.A.L.K.E.R. In all cases, the main topic here is the same. Korshunov, S.T.A.L.K.E.R, or S.T.A.L.K.E.R ask Venya to not tell the world about the other generators. At this point, it is no secret that the center of the zone is located at an installation called the Generators, where the experiment to affect the noosphere spiraled out of control and created the anomalous zone back in 2006. However, what we learn here is the existence of many other generator facilities that were built in secret all around the world on the orders of the Regulatory Board. This mysterious and powerful organization is represented in the game by Agatha, who will also confirm the information about the network of generators in the mainland. The Regulatory Board were the original benefactors of Project X. It was them who financed the secret experiments from the X Labs. However, when the C consciousness was created, it went rogue, taking over the scientists working in the zone and keeping control of the generators for themselves. This is why the Regulatory Board created S.T.A.L.K.E.R and the Ward, in order to reclaim what they saw as their property. Now, what does the existence of multiple generator facilities imply? Supposedly, their purpose is to achieve complete control over the noosphere, and thus, over all of mankind. This is what the Regulatory Board is after, but it seems the rift in the noosphere, that is the anomalous zone, is preventing it to happen. That's why they needed to take control of the anomalous energy by accessing the generators in the Dead Valley and closing the rift. As you can imagine, this information is a pretty big deal, and if the general public learned about this, it would lead to global wars for control over the noosphere. With these reveals, we now understand why Venya had made so many enemies, including the Ward and Spark. Moreover, the mercenaries sent after him may have been working for S.T.A.L.K.E.R, since we know the legendary stalker did hire mercs for various other tasks. Last but not least, the regulatory board appears to be an organization with vast influence all over the world, explaining why the journalist would not be able to hide anywhere on the planet. And that's why he decided to kill himself. Or did he? The decay on the corpse seems to indicate that it has been staying there for a long time, and the clothes worn are not exactly what you would expect from an expert stalker like journalist. Besides, this would not be the first time Venya faked his death. Last but certainly not least, GSC shared a special post on June 6, Journalist Day. I quote, "Veniamin wasn't chasing sensations, he was guided by silence. Silence around the disappeared, and around the unwanted truth. He had no access to it, so he paved his own way. Through deception, through the zone, under false names. His traces are lost in Prypiat, but sometimes it feels like he's somewhere nearby, behind closed doors, in recordings, in the tension before an answer. The zone keeps not only anomalies, but IDs also. And there is someone who is ready to give everything to be heard." The provided picture shows the interior of the apartment, but the last part of the inscription "Benoni for Joy" is missing, along with the corpse. Was this a way to remember the character of Venya, or actually a hint that we will see him again? Only time will tell. What about you? Do you think the journalist is still alive? Share your opinion in the comments down below. Now, before we end this video, there is one last mystery I need to mention, which may or may not be related to Venya. In S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2, Skif can find hidden notes and PDA entries located at stashes on top of the highest buildings in the zone, starting from the tower in Zalesia all the way to the high rises of Prypiat. These messages seem to have been left by two stalkers engaged in some sort of climbing competition, who are nicknamed V and B. The theory here is that V could be Veniamin, but the full explanation behind these notes has yet to be uncovered, so I won't enter into the details. If you are interested in learning more about this mystery of heights and the journalist himself, please go check out my friend Vatislavovic's new video. His stuff is great. I promise you won't regret it. Anyway, I hope you learned something new. Thank you for watching, and good hunting, stalkers.